Hey guys, we're here at Rex Bowling Ball Reviews, and today we're doing an interview with Justin Knowles. He's a PBA pro staffer for Hammer. He's a very well-renowned bowler in the state of Michigan and in the country. This guy's pretty good. How are you, Justin?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing pretty good, man. I really appreciate you being on my channel, being on the channel for Rex, being here to kind of talk a little bit about bowling, right? So today, we're going to talk to Justin about the mental game, right? What's it like, bowling on the pro tour, right? What are some tips in order to kind of, prepare yourselves for bigger tournaments, right? What are some pre-shots routine, right? And also just in general, learn a little bit about Justin's career and, why he loves the sport of bowling.
Awesome. Thank you guys for having me. I'm happy to be here.
All right, so we're just going to go through a list of questions. So we're just going to start it off. So Justin, what is something interesting about you that people might not know?
So I've told nobody this. I don't think anybody knows this, but so I was a top 10 ranked junior in horseshoes in the world. I was top 10 in the world at one point. It's kind of like following the Walter Ray model. It was always kind of similar to bowling, and I could do it all day outside in the summer when I couldn't go to the bowling alley, and I just got extremely good at it. It's kind of a little known fact I don't tell anybody. I don't think 5 people in the world know that. So
it's pretty impressive. So
that's cool, yeah.
Amazing bowler, amazing horseshoe player.
Yeah,
interesting.
Used to be pretty good. Yeah,
Nice.
I haven't done it much lately, but yeah, it was cool when I was younger.
Awesome. And is there any other hobbies or skills that you have that you're proud of, or just things you like doing outside of bowling?
Man, I live a pretty bowling-centric life outside of home. My son and wife, we're always traveling. If not for bowling, for vacation, I'm just always in the car. So traveling's #1 hobby outside of bowling, and other than that, it's spent researching and studying and bowling. Yeah.
Excellent. And so when did you first start bowling and why?
I think I was 2 or 3 years old, so 30 years ago by now. Parents always bowled, grandparents always bowled. I think it was a way to keep me from asking for money for the arcade. So they stuck me on a lane, and for whatever reason, I bowled left-handed. I'm right-handed and everything else. So I just kind of, I don't know why, just started bowling left-handed and did it every day from then on. Yeah.
Very cool. And so did you know you wanted to be a professional bowler from the beginning, or was there like a moment you realized you were good enough to bowl professionally, right? So can you tell us a little bit about that journey and how that came about?
Yeah, I think as soon as I knew what professional bowling was, I think I wanted to do that. But I think what really ignited the fire was an interview with my counselor, I think 11th grade, and he told me that bowling professionally was not a realistic career, and I should think about doing something else. And that moment sparked something different, and then I was practicing 7 days a week. From then on, just kind of like, I'm going to show you, I'll prove you wrong. So, but that was the moment everything changed, was that moment talking to him, yeah.
Interesting. And just something for you viewers here, right? So haters, right? They can drive that fuel for getting better and, pushing yourself to do more. Justin, you've done a lot of great things in the sport of bowling, and we're very appreciative of that. So
Thank you.
Have a conversation about stuff like that in the car.
So what keeps you motivated to bowl and compete?
I think just competitive fire, not wanting to lose. I think, I used to think that I loved not losing more than I loved winning, but I don't know, it's just if I enter a tournament, I'm there to win, and I won't enter if I don't feel like I have a chance. So I think that's just always driven me. I'm never satisfied. At first I wanted to win, a local tournament. Then I wanted to win a scratch bowling tournament, and then a city masters, a state masters. Then it becomes a regional, and then a TV show, and everything's just kind of steps. And so I think until I get to that last step in my head, which is winning a title, which then I'm sure will go to winning 2 titles or winning a major or anything else, I'm just never satisfied. I don't take a lot of time to appreciate those victories too, which I think is the downfall, but I'm just hard on myself, driven to compete, just never satisfied.
You work really hard, man, and we've seen you, bowl a bunch of different tournaments, win a lot of tournaments as well in the state of Michigan. Speaking of which, was it the Michigan State Masters? Is that the one you've won 3 times in a row now?
Yeah, 3 times, yeah.
You're the only bowler in the state of Michigan to do that,
The only
right?
one to ever do it is what they told me last time, but yeah,
This guy's pretty good. So.
That was a good goal of mine coming in. I'd won the Detroit Masters twice in a row and didn't bowl the next year, and then somebody told me, well, no one's ever won this one 3 times after I won it the first time, and then that just that stays in my mind. Like statements like that, ideas like that just grow in my mind, and I obsess over them, and it becomes like I have to do this. More than a goal, it's an obsession. I think you have to be a little obsessed and crazy, and there's definitely some craziness rolling around in my head the week before an event like that. And I think that's another reason I just always want to be prepared. Yeah.
Excellent. And speaking of that, right, so we're going to dive into some topics of the mental game, right? I know, a lot of youth bowlers, you guys out there, or just any bowler in general, right, prepping for a tournament, right, and of course, just in general, right? So we're going to talk to Justin, ask him some questions about the mental game. So do you feel you have a strong mental game? Having a strong mental game is important to succeed on tour or bowling in general?
Absolutely. I feel like it's always been really good. I think to some point that overconfidence can also be a negative, but I always try to make sure I'm extremely prepared. If I'm not prepared, I won't feel that confidence, and I won't allow myself to do that. So I always take the extra mile to be ready, be prepared. And sometimes that gets you into some trouble where you can kind of get that letdown, like, oh, I'm so prepared and I do really poorly. A good example is this past weekend at the PTQ for the Tournament of Champions. Felt extremely prepared, went in, bowled poorly. But you have to bridge that gap. Before, I think I would have kind of fell victim for a couple of days in my own head, like, oh, you didn't prepare well enough, you didn't do this good enough. And I went in there knowing I was prepared, and I felt confident enough to enter, so I felt like I was in a good position. So I try to learn to blur the lines of being upset at yourself. You knew you were prepared, you put yourself in the position, now what can I fix from then on? But I've just always applied that to everything. Every small event, it's a different mood, I guess, when I'm at a local sweeper, but I still have the same mindset. I practice for it, I want to win. So
Gotcha.
It's just, It's always the same, whether it's a PBA event, everything else. I think that's just helped a lot. I put everything on the same level. Nothing seems to mean more to me than the other. It's just a win's a win, and I want to win really badly. So I think that's helped a ton with the mental game too, is treating everything like it's a PBA major or a title-winning shot, even if you're throwing a shot to win a match, in the first round of the tournament. Yeah.
Got you. And speaking of that, right, just the PBA, right? So, like, how strong do you feel your mental game is when it comes to bowling on the big stages? So, a great example is, the U.S. Open. We'll talk about that in a couple minutes, but just in general, bowling in the PBA Tour, right? So, how do you feel your mental game is right now in bowling them now?
I think it's really good. Yeah, I think having to bowl the PTQs in all the events is helpful, because I know that I have to be that much stronger. We have to prepare for this whole separate tournament before we get to the main field. So I feel like putting that extra work in and that extra preparation helps me be even more ready when I make it out, or even more hungry if I miss. So I think that's helped out a lot, having to bowl those, surprisingly, which a lot of guys don't want to have to bowl them, and I don't either. But just talking to everybody else, I feel like my mental's on the same plane as them, and that helps out a lot. Yeah, it helps with confidence for sure.
Excellent. And so getting into the area of, okay, you get ready for the tournament or in practice or whatever, right? But let's say you're bowling a big tournament, right?
Sure.
The pre-shot routine, right? So do you have a pre-shot routine, and do you think bowlers should have one?
Absolutely. I think there's so many stressors in bowling, and having something that comforts you right before you throw a shot is the most vital of all things. And this current pre-shot routine has been it for about 6 months.
Okay.
But I'll do, I don't know, this sounds crazy, but I'll do these little variations to it. Say I don't strike for 4 or 5 shots, I'll maybe wipe the ball off one less time or one more time. It goes back to the obsession things. I mean, something that will change the comfort. Because if I'm feeling comfortable and I'm not striking for a large period of time, I'm going to try to get in a different type of comfortability.
Different zone.
Yeah, and I don't know if others do that, but it helps me to change my mental a little bit. So if I'm really down in the dumps or if I'm really high up, I can alter that, and that puts me in a different form of calmness, preparedness. Might sound odd, but it works for me. I've done it for forever.
Everybody is unique. I even have my own pre-shot routine. So everyone is unique, right, guys? So having a pre-shot routine is super important. In general, though, can you take us through what your routine looks like?
Sure. If I can try to memorize it here.
Sure.
Right before I throw the shot, it's, I usually try to pick the ball up by the grips. I've always done that forever with my right hand. wipe it off, I think 3 times forward, 1 time horizontal, get some moisture in the hand, wipe off the shoes, check the approach, and that's it. I mean, I try to turn my mind off from there. Everything before that moment is the preparation, and then as soon as that's done and I get on the approach, everything kind of turns off, and you're just throwing it at a target at that point. Yeah, that's been mine for probably 6 months. That routine specifically has been there.
Nice. And do you have anything specific you do to prepare for competition, mentally or physically?
Yeah, a lot of visualization. I mean, I don't practice a ton on patterns because I bowl so many sweepers or events. So even if I come to, say, a house shot like this, I'm visualizing what I'm bowling on. So I'm getting my body ready for the angles. You know, if I need to play straighter angles, I'll do that. And I'll bowl, 105 if I have to. Just getting my body ready to be in the right spot and just seeing it. And we can be anywhere that has a square set space. My mind's always just visualizing what we're bowling on next. It's always seeing the angles and preparing the hand for release, walking in the supermarket. I'm sure every bowler does that, but just a constant state of visualization. And that's how I stay prepared. That's what's helped me forever. Yeah.
Nice. And so do you drill new equipment often, or do you throw the same stuff for long periods of time?
Now, people will say I only throw 1 ball, but I drill a ton of balls. We have a ton of releases that come out, so we drill all those. Of course, I throw a lot of purple hammers, but I mean, I've drilled 8 of those this season already. Probably 50 balls since January, just constantly fine-tuning everything, using it just in sweepers and league, everything. Just fine-tuning balls, staying prepared. You always want to be prepared, and if you're not drilling balls on the tour especially, you're falling behind, because these guys are masters at figuring out what's missing, and ball reps are incredible at fixing and filling those gaps. And if you're not drilling balls, you're behind for sure.
And do you feel that surface prep is important too, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, a lot of guys will do it before an event, and that's great too. I like to throw a couple of shots and then scramble and get all of it done before practice, but I've always cleaned the balls, always surface prep, always be ready. That's another just key to preparedness and visualization. What do I think I'm gonna need? And that's one of the most important things. I mean, surface is so underrated, and nobody seems to really, on the smaller level, the local amateur level, nobody really takes it into account, and it's so vital. Yeah.
Excellent. All right, so I know earlier we mentioned a little about the U.S. Open, right? So this guy was on the telecast, right? So we're going to dive into that a little bit. So were you nervous at all to compete on TV for the U.S. Open?
No, but I think it's because the week was so crazy in general. Like, I got the call late to get in the tournament, got there in the middle of the night, woke up early and bowled. I got there 2 in the morning, we bowled at 8, made it through, and then the next day was 4 patterns of practice, and we bowled that. And after all the games, I had to throw the last 6 in a row to make the cut. And so I had all these peaks and valleys, and I think by the time the show got there, it was just a relief knowing that I didn't have to, I didn't have to throw a 7-bagger to make it. I was already in, and then of course I got to throw a strike to win half the matches on the TV, but no, I was just ready. I guess I always pictured it in my head. I always, more of the visualization, I always visualized how it would feel, and so when we got to there and it was close to what I visualized, I was super calm. Yeah, it was odd. I was waiting to get nervous, and it wasn't happening. Yeah, it was crazy. I got to enjoy it a lot more.
Mental game of steel, guys.
Shoot, it was good for sure.
Oh, got someone out there having a little fun.
Some visitor.
Yeah. So did bowling someone familiar to you, Frank Snodgrass, right? In the first match, did that help levitate some nerves?
Yeah, I think both of us. It was good. Yeah, just the comfortability. We bowled each other so many times. And I think that also played into being calm. Like knowing that we would bowl, because had I been bowling someone else, maybe I would have felt differently. But it was just like, hey man, we bowl each other 5 times a week. We might as well bowl each other again. So yeah, that helped out a lot, I think.
And Frank's a phenomenal bowler, so that was a really awesome match between you guys.
It was super cool. I'm so happy that it was close, that it came down to a shot in the 10th, because that's every match we bowl is the same way. So it was awesome. Yeah, wouldn't have it any other way.
Excellent. All right, so and now so we have some questions from some high school bowlers, right?
Oh no. Okay.
So what is the most helpful tip someone has given you about bowling, if you could just name like a couple or just like what's your top tip, something that's really stuck with you for a long time.
Yeah, my dad, I don't know if it's not really bowling specific, more life, but my dad would always get mad at me when I said I can't, and that stuck with me forever. It still does now, and every time I think like, oh, I'm 200 pins out of the cut, I can't make it, he's right here in the side of my head saying, like we're not gonna think like that, and that it stuck with me forever. And he was the first person I called when I made the show, and that's exactly what he told me. And it was just came back full circle around. It was pretty wild. That's tip number one. I don't know. I'm just always giving myself positive affirmations. I don't know if I'd call them tips, but always telling yourself like you're good enough. You know, you're prepared. You're ready. Be ready. Never count yourself out. Those are just the main ones I live by. I just always picture my father in here yelling at me if I think I can't do something. So that's been by far the best tip.
Nice.
Yeah. And throw the purple ball is a good tip that I get from everybody else.
They ain't banging.
That's a good tip also.
Yeah. So did you bowl in high school?
I didn't actually. We moved halfway through my freshman year. We moved from Lower Michigan to Upper Michigan, and I went to the only school in the entire region that didn't have a team.
Wow.
The only one. I bowled on the youth league with all the teams.
Okay.
I got offered to live in a coach's basement if I would bowl for the team. My parents didn't want that happening. So. Yeah, but I was the only high school in the region didn't have a team.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay. I was gonna talk a little bit about maybe your youth bowling, right?
Sure.
So,
yeah.
what kind of stuff did you bowl as a youth bowler? Like just in general, like 'cause you didn't bowl to high school, so like
Sure.
were you bowling like a Saturday league, right?
Yeah,
Did you bowl junior gold, right? I'm curious.
We
about
did a high school league. It was all the high school teams were on the league, and then they put me with kind of the stragglers and anybody. So it was always my mission to beat all of them.
Nice.
That's basically it. I mean, we really didn't know about much up there. We didn't know much about junior gold. There was no really high level bowlers there to show you that stuff. So we really didn't know about anything until I got older and started to research it on my own. Like, oh, we missed a whole youth career full of tournaments. But I mean, at the time, I didn't throw a reactive ball till I was 19. I had one ball, plastic ball, and I think that helped me become extremely versatile with releases and everything else. That's all I had. So had we went to some competitive tournaments, probably wouldn't have went very well. But I did well in the house shot tournaments that I bowled at that time. Yeah.
Nice. And if you could go back, would you change anything about your youth bowling? Like if you could work on anything or do anything differently?
No, I think I like I mean, I obviously didn't bowl in high school or college, so maybe I was a little bit behind in that way, but I kind of liked that I had to work a little bit harder to forge my own path and get there. But looking back now after meeting coaches and realizing I missed out on so much valuable information, that's a big one. And just hanging out with friends bowling. I mean, they put me with kids who weren't bowlers, and it was nice to see like whole teams of people getting loud, and I love that. Getting to bowl on teams now is awesome because I just missed out on all of it, so I miss that a lot. Yeah.
Nice. And so just getting into your physical game, right? So were you always two-handed?
I was, yeah, from the start, I guess. It seems like every two-hander I talked to followed the same path. You know, I started pushing the ball out there, and I think because my uncle was left-handed is why I kind of idolized him maybe at that age and picked it up and just always did it. And back then in the early 90s when it was a thing, people were trying to, basically, I mean, nobody knew, so they were, you know, saying you can't bowl this tournament, that's not legal, you have to learn to bowl with one hand. And my mom and dad are like, no, that's the way he bowls. And thankfully for them pushing it, but yeah, it was an interesting time then. Nobody saw it. My brother and I were the only two-handers I saw till I was 17 or 18 when YouTube started becoming popular, and I saw Belmo and
Oscoop,
and I'm like, whoa, there's other people that do this. I mean, there was no one.
Future bowling now. Everyone, all the kids, everyone does. I switched to two hands for gosh sakes. I mean, it's very incredible. Enlightening experience.
Yeah, honestly. We went from being the only ones and everyone just like, what is happening, to everybody's doing it. Everybody. So I like to think we were some of the first in that era of time. So
nice.
That was cool, yeah.
Sweet. And so what do you do if you're lost on a hard sport pattern?
Ooh. You know, you have to fish at some point. There's two ways to think when you're lost. You can give up and just get out of the way, or fish and try to find something. And I don't think there's anything wrong with giving up as long as you get to the bottom and then you start figuring something out. Like say you're lost in the 8th or 9th frame of a game and you have nothing. Okay, I mean, be mad if you would like. Be mad for one shot and then take it out and get it done and start back over. And I apply that a lot. Like another example of the TOC, I got mad probably game 3, 8th or 9th frame. I had no ball reaction and I let myself be mad for one shot. And I said, you can be as angry as you want. You can throw this shot as bad as you want. And then we're going to get it together in the 10th frame. Threw the nice shot terrible, threw a split, got mad at myself for not getting good count and getting a spare, and went to work and moved 20 right and ended up going 80 over the last 3. So really just experiment. I mean, those are the times you learn, because you're going to get to a situation where you have no look, and you're going to come back to those moments right there where you're like, oh, I remembered when I tried, moving 20 right, getting on the gutter, when I tried a different hand position. At least for me, those moments stick with me. I hardly remember any of the strikes to win. I really don't, but I remember the split conversions, the random moves in the block that saved the whole day. And my brain just turns off the strikes, and it sticks, it remembers those moments right there. And I think that's vital, the reason you don't give up, because when you're struggling, your brain's going to tell you, like, hey, do you remember this time we did this and you made the cut? And you're going to spark some motivation. You're going to make it. Or you're not, but at least you'll be ready if you get there again. So.
Nice. And how do you determine, right, so the transition, right, when transition happens, like, how do you know where to move, and like when you're looking at the lane and like what you're seeing in ball motion, right? So you can tell us a little bit about how you make those adjustments.
Okay. Usually on the left we play a lot of topography. And we throw a lot of urethanes, so the fronts hook a lot usually, and especially on the tour, I mean, out of bounds is usually, 5 to the gutter, you can't throw a ball there. That's almost every pattern outside of short. So you kind of have 2 options. You have to either go toward the out of bounds and create hook, or you have to get away from it as far as you can, and that's just experience. Say we're on you're on a 35 footer and the gutter doesn't hook. If you tried the gutter and it doesn't hook, or the front's hook too much and you can't play straight, just experience tells you have to slow hook it to the gutter. I mean, these are just tons of failing in these situations are the ways to know, but it seems like, on the right side of the lane, you kind of follow the breakdown, you follow the transition, and we don't do that a lot on the left for ourselves. If they're really hard, sometimes we make them harder, sometimes we make them easier, but just experience. You just kind of know you can't, once you've started moving right as a lefty, you hardly ever can go back to the left, and same with the right. Once you start moving left, you hardly ever want to go back to the right, because then you're behind the move, and yeah, it's just experience with that.
Awesome. So where do you practice usually, if you were to practice?
Either here at Royal Scott or at Jag 60 in Jackson.
Nice.
Drill my balls there, so it's just convenient to do that, and this is closest to home for me. But yeah, man, a lot of people ask me, you must practice on patterns all the time, and I'm like, I practice on house all the time, and I just experiment, man. See what you can do, and just try to have fun with it. Can you play first arrow on a house shot that hasn't been oiled in 3 days? Can you play 6th arrow? Because everybody is good at playing, the middle part of the lane. Almost everybody, and especially at the higher levels. So you have to find something that you can be great at that maybe not everybody's really good at, and that's what will separate everyone. That's why the EJs and Simonsons, Belmontes separate themselves. They're great at something that 5% of people are great at, and a lot of guys I'm really great at playing 4th arrow. So is 90% of the talent. So you have to make sure that you're great at everything. You can't have a B game. I hear that a lot. I'm playing my B game. I'm like, well, every game should be your A game. If it's not, especially on the higher levels, if it's not, you just have no chance. So work hard at everything you're uncomfortable with. It's great coming to a place that hooks like this, that hasn't been oiled 3-4 days. It's great to learn how to play straight in the friction. Like, you learn so much or you can just pack your stuff up and leave after 4 shots, but instead. No, these are the valuable times where you learn stuff that you think it'll never come into play, and suddenly you're 20 games deep into a tournament, and you're like, oh, it's the same situation as I was in. And yeah, just these are more of the obsession things. You have to obsess over these details. They're so important.
Nice. So have you ever picked a 7-10 split?
I actually have a crazy story about the only time I've ever made the 7-10. I bowled the very last squad of the Bowler's Journal when it was in New York.
Okay.
And I was using my thumb at the time, and got mad, left it on the last shot, grabbed it with one hand, threw it as hard as I could, and made it. And it was the very last shot of the Bowler's Journal that year, and I made it. And that was the only time I've ever even kicked a pin out of the bag.
Oh my gosh.
So that was my claim to fame with the 7-10 was that, yeah.
Nice. And what is your favorite bowling ball and why?
This is going to be a big shock to the listeners. Actually, so I'll classify it. Purple Hammer, definitely, but the new Purple Hammers are my favorite ball of all time.
Interesting.
Yeah, just predictability, especially on our side. We don't have a lot of traffic, and so we don't get into the shinier, clean balls very often, just because there's not as much of us to create hook to the left. So what we're really trying to do is create hold.
Yeah.
And the best way to do that is with the strongest ball we can throw, which is a urethane ball that will hook early in the front and be smoother and more predictable, give us more hold down the lane. And I've just always enjoyed it. Yeah, it's always worked for me, so that would be my favorite. Yeah.
Well, Justin, we really appreciate you stopping in, doing this interview, giving us some valuable information. Hopefully we can maybe do some more videos with Justin in the future.
Absolutely, I'd be down. Thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate this. Yeah.
All right, guys, and feel free to click that subscribe button below. We got some awesome content coming soon. All right, folks, thanks again.